We like to think we know what politics is. Politics is a process. It's a competition to see who has the best ideas, or it's all just a big show to distract us from the real threats.
Whether it's a UFO or whether it's Bigfoot.
I was taught that politics was invented by Hugh and Lillian Hannity to give their son Sean something to talk about. But according to this guy, it's none of those things. Carl Schmitt wrote an essay in 1932 entitled The Concept of the Political. According to Schmitt, politics isn't about debates and issues and process. For him, it's all about friends versus enemies.
I see you, enemy. I see you, enemy. 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 You are my enemy.
See, for Schmitt, a group of people get together because they want to preserve a certain way of life. Anyone else who also wants to preserve that way of life is your friend. But when another group rises up and endangers what you've built, that group is the enemy. And once friends and enemies have been identified, that's when something becomes political. Imagine you're in an Amish community, and one day some trust fund kid drives up in a Range Rover shaking with hip-hop beats. It turns out he and his husband want to move in. For them, things just got political. It's not Coke versus Pepsi, Apple versus Android. It's survival of a way of life or the death of it. And when Schmitt says enemy, that's what he means. Enemies are not people you disagree with or criticize or even think are morally bad. It's not someone who annoys you. An enemy is a threat to your way of life. Less like this.
I don't like you.
And more like this.
Stilter. You will fall. You will not bring humanity down. God is going to destroy you.
I know this all sounds dramatic, but think about the last few years in America. Trump was a shock to the system because he was comfortable talking this way. He recognized that politics wasn't a polite debate club, but a fight with two clear sides. Some people are friends to the people, and others are
the enemy of the people.
Everything is political now. Dr. Seuss books, pronouns, but those forces were around before Trump. More on that later. So why is it hard for us to think of politics in these terms? Well, it's because we've been trained our whole lives to think like liberals. Liberalism sees itself as the solution to the political, the end of all friend-enemy distinctions. They're the girl from Frozen, ending the eternal winter. Instead, they propose a bustling marketplace of ideas, where everyone gives their little TED Talk, and we, the discerning public, pick our favorites.
Pat yourselves on the back right now, okay? Let's do it. Come on. Everybody, I'm not gonna let you stop until I see everybody doing it.
Maybe conflict can be overcome if we just listen to this enough times.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
Next thing you know, the streets of LA will be taken over with Crips and Bloods wedding ceremonies. And so society inches forward, and somehow forward always means leftward. But Schmitt says that when core values fundamentally conflict, debate and campfire kumbaya sessions are useless. At some point, you gotta pick teams. Debate can't bridge every gap, and insisting conflict isn't there when it really is just masks it for a while. In American politics, both sides now see each other as enemies to be defeated, not opponents in some gentlemanly debate. We've come to recognize that politics isn't an intellectual sparring session with overwitty Aaron Sorkin dialogue.
Damn it, how could this have happened?
In some ways, this is a good development. At least now we're not lying to ourselves that this is all a disagreement over marginal tax rates. The sides are clear. For 2 good years, you could tell a person's political beliefs by whether they were wearing a surgical mask. But in another sense, it's bad news, because friend-enemy dynamics at every level of society means that society is not healthy. There really was a time when the 20-year-old girl cutting your hair wasn't named Travis. A functional society depends on people having core similarities. This makes it easier to tell friends from enemies. Having a lot of agreement at a basic level helps a nation function properly, and total openness to everything ends up destroying everything. Congress wasn't designed to function in a country that couldn't decide what a woman was. But papering over these fundamental differences doesn't make them go away. We thought that we'd reached the end of political conflict, where now we could exist in this neutral realm, where the best ideas floated to the top. Now we've got to recognize that we're not in a debate, we're in a war. The left and right act like enemies because that's what they are. And no amount of
guys, please be civil
is going to stop that. So how does Trump fit into all this? People talk as if Trump created the division in this country, like he's the one who started the fight. But he didn't start it. He just recognized that he was in a fight and started punching back. He wasn't interested in a seat at the debate table. He talked about everything as an existential battle. I wonder where he got that idea. The left was happy to treat other Republicans as debate opponents because they weren't a real threat to power. John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Nikki Haley were never threats. They sent these Republicans to the debate stage like your camp counselor sends you snipe hunting. They They get a kick out of it. So if leftists start inviting you to debate, know that that's what they're doing. But they don't treat Trump as a debate opponent. They treat him as an enemy, because he is. The left understands the friend-enemy dynamic, and they don't give people positions of power because they're competent. They give them positions of power because they're useful. How else do you explain stuff like this?
Stelter scored a fellowship at the Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics, and Public Policy at Harvard's Kennedy School.
The core of politics for Schmitt is not issues or process. It's not shaking hands and kissing babies. It's about survival. It's about political communities banding together as friends to further their own way of life, and enemies who fundamentally threaten that. He's not saying this is the way things should be. He's talking about the way things are. It's like when you find out what McDonald's chicken nuggets are made of. You may not like it, but nobody cares. Schmitt's view seems grim, but only because it's not the world we thought we lived in. We watched Remember the Titans and thought that racial conflict was fixed forever. Schmitt helps us get past wishful ideals that ignore real conflict. We can't debate our way out of this. People get mad that, quote, everything is political now, but it's always been political at some level. We just had a story in our head that made it hard to see what was going on. It's our fault for believing the story. There's been a war going on and we just noticed. That's on us. Maybe you long for the days when politics was normal, when we had debates and primaries that mattered and nobody was getting arrested for running for president. But that wasn't real. It's like being nostalgic for a dream. Sorry. The left sees themselves as the Avengers, and Trump as that big purple guy. If we don't realize this, we're going to lose. As Schmitt knew 90 years ago, you can't logic your way out of an elemental battle for survival. There are still people trying to act as if the liberal vision of open debate and the marketplace of ideas is real, but they'll never win anything meaningful that way. It's like trying to play chess with a grizzly bear. You may win on the board, but you're still getting mauled. Schmitt helps us understand that we're not in a dorm room argument. It's time to wake up and smell the enmity.